Narayanam namaskritya Naram chaiva narottamam Devam sarasvatim vyasam Pujayam girayam Nasta prayashu bhadreshu Nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati uttama shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati naishtiki. Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5. Is it text 7 today? 8? 9. Oh, 9. Okay, yes, that's right. 5, that's right. Okay, text 9. Yata Dharmadayas Jai Shri Radha Kunja Jai Jagannath Jai Baladev Maheshwara Jai Shri Gita Karta Yata Dharmadayas Karta Muni Varyan Kirtita Muni Vayanu Kirtita Na Tata Vasudevasya Na Tata Vasudevasya Mahima Hi Anuvarnita Mahi Anuvarnita Yatardama Dayaskarta Muni Varyanu Kirtita Natata Vasudevasya Mahit Mahi Anuvarnita Yata Dharma Dyascharta Muni Varyanu Kirtita Natata Vasudevasya Mahi Anuvarnita Yata dharmadayascarta Muni Varyanu Kirtita Natata Vasudevasya Mahi Mahi Anuvarnita
Yatha
dharmadayascata
Muni Varyanu
Muni Varyanu Kirtita Natata Vasudevasya Mahi Mahi Anuvarnita. Anybody else like to? Yata, as much as. Dharma Adaya, all four principles of religious behavior.
All four principles of religious behavior.
Cha, and. Artha, purposes. Muni Varya, by yourself. The great sage. Anukirtita, repeatedly described. Not. Tata, in that way. Vasudevasya, of the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. Mahima, glories. He, certainly. Anuvarnita, so constantly described. Yata dharmadayascarta muni varyanu kirtita natata vasudevasya mahimahi anuvarnita. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charnadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Although, great sage, you have very broadly described the four principles, beginning with religious performances, you have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality Vasudeva. Please repeat. Although, great sage, you have very broadly described the four principles, beginning with religious performances. You have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality, Vasudeva. Although, great sage, you have very broadly described the four principles, beginning with religious performances, you have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality, Vasudeva. Purport by His Divine Grace, by Charnadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The prompt diagnosis of Sri Narad is at once declared. The root cause of the despondency of Vyasadeva was his deliberate avoidance of glorifying the Lord in his various editions of the Puranas. He has certainly, as a matter of course, given descriptions of the glories of the Lord, Sri Krishna, but not as many as given to religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and salvation. These four items are by far inferior to engagement in the devotional service of the Lord. Sri Vyasadeva, as the authorized scholar, knew very well this difference, and still, instead of giving more importance to the better type of engagement, namely devotional service to the Lord, he had more or less improperly used his valuable time, and thus he was despondent from this. It is clearly indicated that no one can be pleased substantially without being engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, this fact is clearly mentioned. After liberation, which is the last item in the line of performing religiosity, etc., one is engaged in pure devotional service, This is called the stage of self-realization, or the Brahma-bhuta stage. After attainment of this Brahma-bhuta stage, one is satisfied. But satisfaction is the beginning of transcendental bliss. One should progress by attaining neutrality and equality in the relative world. And passing the stage of equanimity, one is fixed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. This is the instruction of the personality of Godhead in the Bhagavad Gita. The conclusion is that in order to maintain the status quo of the Brahma-bhuta stage, as also to increase the degree of transcendental realization, Narad recommended to Vyasadeva that he, Vyasadeva, should now eagerly and repeatedly describe the path of devotional service. This would cure him from gross despondency. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshusam Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We're seeing here how, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that he comes to annihilate the demons, and he comes to lift up the devotees. So, revealing that he actually comes to the material world for the sake of the devotees. Like we were talking about yesterday, we should see it. He came for me, right? He came for you. He came for all of us individually. And so, in doing that, see, Vyasadeva, being Krishna also, his literary incarnation, for the same purpose, he's coming for the betterment of society. And knowing as well the thoughts and intents and desires of society to prosper in the world, so he gives them the means of being able to do that through all those Vedas that he had previously written. But that is, as revealed here, apart and separate from devotional service. So, and in fact, we're seeing that the society that is functioning now with this means of exchange with each other. I do this for you and you do this for me. And if we don't, then I'm not going to do it for you. That's, the material exchange. You can't walk into a store and just take goods without paying for it. But in devotional service, the attitude is the consciousness. The society we are developing, we are part of now, in Krishna consciousness, is the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. This means we have a way of thinking that is very unique to ourselves, right? And in that way of thinking, we don't develop the desire to satisfy ourselves, the desire to do things now according to our own reasoning or thinking what we could do, figure out it best for us. We surrender by the false ego for the false ego to be broken. Now this concept of a mentor is coming into society, being recognized as a function that even though we reach a stage of development, there's someone beyond us. There's someone better than we are. And so by working together with someone also who is better than we are, together we do more with each other than we could either of us do individually. So this is the concept as well, of guru and a disciple relationship. But it doesn't have to be that you have to be in your guru's presence all the time. Because what Srila Prabhupada has written down is his guidance. In these purports is his revelations to us of how as well to develop this love for Krishna by wanting our acts to be used to please Krishna, not ourselves. So then we're going to be learning how to do things in the most superior way. We prepare foods in a way we wouldn't prepare for ourselves. And we read in a way we wouldn't normally read a book in this way. Each and every paragraph, going through it, word practically for word. But see, it gives us the solid faith in the knowledge that this knowledge is not being distorted in any way, which is why Srila Prabhupada can put truthfully on the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and his realization and his giving to the world that in its original state keeps it preserved. See how important these histories enable us to understand the need to develop a different way of looking at things. But not only the need to realize that, but the need to experience that, which is what the chanting is. It will automatically give to us a state of mind, a state of consciousness, if we do it as Krishna explains for us to do that. We should be able to avoid all external distractions, which the mind is constantly wanting to do to us because we have allowed it to do whatever it wants. And when we get entertained, we allow someone else to put those thoughts that we are being entertained by into our minds, into our consciousness. And we want to become free from anything that is not of the eternal nature. So with the consciousness being through every daily activity of its involvement with the spiritual energy of Krishna, it's going to be experiencing that very eternalness, and then it just brings bliss, realizing we are eternal beings. So this morning, because I've been asking Krishna about this, because as a society of people, the directions we're being given are being given for us to become perfect human beings, free from sin, free from the involvement of karma totally, and as an international society, each of us individually as temples are like cities, like a city, right? And the way Srila Prabhupada set it up is that we all live under one roof. We can all live under one roof. And if every temple is doing that, then he has fulfilled what was spoken of him, that he could build a house. The whole world could live there, So I meditate like this on how, because the devotee that trained me up, Dasrath, his strictness at the time has left in my mind a pattern, because I lived with him for several years, and we took part together. We chanted 16 rounds together every day. We went out preaching together every day. We chanted kirtan every day. We preached to the university students every day, passing out books every day. And it was so satisfying, Prabhu, an experience, because here you are. Even I didn't have much experience with Krishna consciousness at all. I had read Bhagavatam by that time, but being able to go out into the public and preach to each and every individual you come into contact with, Krishna gives you a special unction to do that. To feel, and this is what Vyasadeva is doing here. He is, in his sensitivity, knowing the desires of the people he's giving the guidance to. Because just as Srila Prabhupada gave to us the guidance still, he knew in the future we were going to turn into like a church, all right? So similarly, we are by following these instructions of Veda Vyas in those 4 regulations of society, we are taking part in a process separate from what is being revealed in this verse. the devotional service aspect that the human being, through Krishna consciousness, is being allowed to engage in 24/7. But if we are under the responsibility that most of us are finding ourselves in, and we have jobs in the material world, then it makes it very difficult. Makes it very, very difficult to keep the mind removed from the effects of the energy of the material world. And the mode of goodness rules the morning, especially the very right before, one muhurta or two before sunrise is the most auspicious time, which is why we have Mangalarti at that time, for spiritual meditation and realization of Krishna, of God. And so this is why it gets inbred into a devotee's consciousness to rise early. And so it becomes, if you do it day after day after day for years and years and years, you don't need an alarm clock anymore, it just happens automatically. I've been having muscle contractions, which is a deficiency in a particular mineral, magnesium. But when you take magnesium, it also makes you sleep pretty soundly. So I had pretty sound sleep last night, and I didn't get up when I normally would. See, all these things can affect the body's functioning too. That's why we take milk. Hot milk actually is supposed to be coming from the cow, the proper cows, whose milk is meant for human consumption. But still, all these cows born in the mode of goodness, they're offering benefit. But when they mess it up by the homogenization they do is messing it up. But nevertheless, hot milk, you take it at night, right before reading Krishna book. We were going to do that last night. I heard you on the phone, so I'm not going to bother you, so it'll work out. But you take hot milk, this hot milk, Srila Prabhupada said. Without Srila Prabhupada's kind of side conversations on everything about this movement, it's his own realizations he's giving devotees moment by moment as they're with him and learning how to promote this movement. And those little tiny details like this one, that milk has the ability to develop a portion of the brain that is used for spiritual development, which no other food that I've heard Srila Prabhupada speak of has that ability the same way. Now they accredit, even modern science accredits like sesame to have the ability to build memory and like this, brain power. But this special aspect of the milk, I strongly suspect, is because the fact the cow is born in the mode of goodness means it has a sense of love already born into it at its birth. That human beings, overpowered by a sense of false ego more so than the cow is, because born in the mode of goodness means, to a great extent, free from the false ego. We've all got false egos, and especially in this age, the mode of goodness is hard to be seen in most societies even now. But we are developing a society in which beyond the mode of goodness is supposed to reside transcendence. So here is the thing being pointed out as well by Narad, is that this bhakti is that transcendence. You see, every form of life we see manifesting in this world is dependent upon another form of life for its continuance of its existence, right? Bhakti will bring us to the point. Simultaneously, we become independent by having full knowledge of the Supreme Person with us. Now, if Narad Muni, who is giving us the instruction here, to God, Narad Muni, now think about this. Narad Muni is giving God instructions, okay? God is asking his advice. Where has he been brought to in his stage of development spiritually for God to be able to put himself in a position to ask him advice? Think about this. So he is a soul. Narad Muni is a jiva, atma, like we are. But he was born at the beginning of the similarly out of Brahma's own body, self-same body now as he had at birth, trillions of years ago. See, this is so far beyond our mental minds. You're going to read a story like this, even in a science fiction, you don't read about this kind of thing, isn't it? It's beyond. That's the meaning of transcendence. So Narad Muni, does he have to worry about planning food for himself? And he can only stay at one house long enough to milk a cow, about 20 minutes, a half hour. So the abilities the soul gradually develops with Krishna, unlimited. From what we are being allowed to realize we're capable of in the material scene of educational systems, the school of thought amongst, quote unquote, the geniuses of the world, you know. Just look at Narad Muni. He's been here all this time. What kind of love would that require? You want to stay here because of all these other people here filling their own personal desires and spitting in your face after you tell them the truth? You want to stay in this? And yet Narad Muni's here. He's still here. Think of that. What kind of love that is. And he has access to Krishna's personal place. He can go to Krishna's house anytime he wants. And we have evidence of that through the writings of Vedavyas, to where he went into Krishna's house. And in every one of his queen's homes, Krishna had, I remember now, 16,180. Tell me?
16,800.
16,108. Say it again. 108 wives. Okay? And he built a palace for every single one of them. And every single one of them felt as though they were the only one he was with. And every one of them was so satisfied, they felt that the other wives must be deprived. Can you imagine? This is God. Can you show me anybody that can do that? Krishna. There is no such thing. And let's say it's made up by somebody's mind. Okay? Let's say there's no God. Still, wouldn't it be such a high form of perfection to attain to the realization of the possibility of it even, you know? So, just that in and of itself, to know how these literatures expand the consciousness to give us the ability to come close to realizing eternity. We pass over the word eternity, but just to know what it is, I mean, is a great experience for us as human beings, only right now being subject and exposed to everything that is temporary, but to know what the eternal is. And this is what, see, the form we see Krishna manifesting to us here by Srila Prabhupada's request in the form of the deity. That form is at least as old as the earth, right? Every part of the earth that is, well, see, but we have its form transforming, so like the leaves become part of the earth again, don't they? And they came from the earth. But the rocks that are not changing as rapidly What's happening, what's happening with this process of rain and the breaking down of the minerals of the earth? It's all going into the lower places, to the places where food would be planted, to give nourishment, those minerals giving nourishment to the fruits of the mother, whose body it is. A mother's body, from one perspective, because milk can produce everything the human body needs. You think of a mother's body as almost an example of that is self-sufficiently able to keep on going of its own making, isn't it? So, to some degree, you can see examples of cycles that are eternal. And they give us a little bit of an example, but due to the fact that it's all being forced by karma, we only get a little tiny glimpse of what eternity is like in the effects. Our consciousness, when it's freed from the... Imagine if you asked Narad Muni how old he is. So what is in his mind about aging? What kind of mind does he have? This is Krishna consciousness. His Krishna consciousness has led him to that kind of an eternal realization. And he can stay here as long as he wants, or he can leave if he wants. That's freedom. That's what Krishna consciousness is giving to the soul who adapts to the principles that enable it to experience that kind of consciousness. We're free. Then we can be called free moral agents. They have a saying in the world of free moral agent, right? They make us all civils, what do they call them? Civilians, who are citizens of this country, are said to be, quote unquote, free agents, right? Free moral, supposed to be moral agents as well, which has a lot to do with how free we are. It's how moral we are. Free from what? And we could ask, free from what? What do we want to be free from? If we do want to be free moral agents, doesn't freedom also bring a suggestion that there would also be a bondage to be removed from if we have to become free? We have to become free from something, right? What is it we're wanting to become free from? It is death. And in the totality of that, then, is birth, death, and old age, and disease goes along with both of those. So that's what true freedom is, that Krishna is offering to the soul that just surrenders to him. So we may lose the use of these bodies if we don't find the means. Narad Muni has the same body he had then. Brahma changes his body. But I don't know if Narad Muni even needs to eat. See, Krishna doesn't. And even Krishna's brother Lakshman in Ram pastimes, Lakshman didn't eat the whole time. And even what had been given by Lord Ram to put aside in Ekadasi, that's still there. Because Ram had later asked him about it when he told him he wasn't taking prasadam the whole time. And there are breatharians. So a lot of these problems that we have with our body is the things we take into it. So if we can see this sound that we're creating is more powerful than we realize. And these bodies, which are brought up to a stage of development that's supposed to be human, is supposed to be above the creatures. So when we look at what this body produces, the only valuable thing we could conclude that would be able to produce would be what comes out of the mouth, right? cry tears, but unless you're in the desert, they're not going to be very satisfying for everybody. This body is mucus, pus, and blood, basically. And so, yet, I'm suspecting because this body, well, I don't know about the body of Narad Muni, but Srila Prabhupada said, devotees had seen Narad Muni when they saw this person laughing at devotees, so they felt the need to go preach to him a little bit, right? And why they found out he was laughing was because it was funny to him to hear Malechas chanting the holy names. And when they run back to Srila Prabhupada, they called us Malechas. He called us a Malecha. He said, you've seen Narad Muni. So Narad Muni is watching the advancement of because this is his line also. He's in Krishna's disciplic succession too. As a guru to Krishna himself, playing that part here. So he can be an observer. It's like Christ did the same thing amongst his own followers. He was amongst them, they didn't even know it. They didn't even know it. There's a quote in the Bible that says, you should entertain guests often, because in so doing, many times, you will entertain angels without even knowing it. So angels can take the form of human beings and disguise themselves as well. This is being looked at in ancient cultures as body shifting, right? We were talking about shamanism as well. So see now, every time I give class, I get a realization while I'm giving class. It's amazing, you know. But see, just as I was saying, a devotee wouldn't want to look to that kind of thing because he would be going into a lower form of consciousness in order to become an animal. But Krishna goes into these other forms for the sake of those creatures. But in the same way, we can go to higher forms. Think about that. Now, Narad Muni is revealing that. He can go to lower forms, he can go to higher forms. He can play his Veena. See? So he does this by changing bodies also. He can take on what would be called shape-shifting, I think they call it, form-shifting. The shamans have the ability to do that. We see that example also in Ram Leela with Ram's own father, Dasarath, shooting a deer. And the deer was a sage who, with his wife, had specifically taken romantic episodes with each other in different forms. Being a sage, he had the ability to curse. So he cursed. This is Dasarath. Let me think now. Is that Dasarath? Do you know if that was Dasarath who had the curse that when he next time had relations, union, then he would die? Grandfather Bhishma's father had that, I know. I'm trying to remember whether this was Ram Leela or not. It may have been in Ram Leela with someone else because it wasn't Ram's father. No. But Grandfather Bhishma's father did that, and because of that, Grandfather Bhishma agreed to take celibacy himself for his entire life and free his father from the curse so that his father could have children. So that was the love of Grandfather Bhishma for his father. And that love, you can see how much Krishna empowered him and giving him as well. Another one here. When we talk about great souls, automatically included in their personalities are these abilities granted to them by Krishna for them to be like normal. Grandfather Bhishma had the ability to choose when he left his body. Lying on a battlefield for days, covered in arrows, if you can imagine yet choosing the proper time. Because when the planetary systems are in place, then it's the most easy time for the soul to make it to its destination. He knew where he wanted to go. He knew how to get there. Krishna, Srila Prabhupada explains in Bhagavatam, makes that arrangements for devotees automatically. Don't have to think about it. Don't have to worry about it. Just chant. If we can chant, if we are chanting through the day, and, after, quote unquote, finished my rounds, still chanting, who can sing at their job? You get a job you can sing at. It's a pretty happy job, And that's all Krishna asks of us. Be happy, sing. And the most powerful thing you can sing is his name and his energy. And his internal energy is his greatness, his glory. And he's giving it to us, he says, unlimitedly. He empowers his name in the stage with everything he has. That's amazing. So see, he's putting us as well with giving us his name. This is how he's putting us above other living entities to be able to have the responsibility of carrying this name to others. Means now we gotta be upright. We gotta live right. We gotta do what he says, And otherwise we're misleading. So I was analyzing this morning. See, these that were born in Vrindavan, Krishna's most favorite place, most of them in that mood of love already broken a false ego, because they look at the entire population as more elevated than themselves. That's what love brings us to, because we realize all we know and how many times we've broken the principles that we know about. And yet so many outside in the world are revealing principles about God just by being honest people without any taking of thought for it. Being honest in being constant in their work and their labors. They work hard slaving. It's not easy to function, even just to function as a human being in this society. It is a difficult task that society has brought upon itself to perform functions. I worked in a factory. They had a place called the Pit, where you spray the underbodies of cars with this paint that just dripped down on you. You had to wear a hat, had to wear a mask. Mask didn't. When you got off work at night, when you blew your nose, it was black paint coming out of your nose. This kind of thing. These are jobs created. Yeah, you get paid great. You got no time to spend the money. What time you do have, you spend recuperating the time you lost sleeping all week because you were working overtime. This kind of job. These are kind of jobs created, considered to be successful jobs. Considered to be that you should be engaged in, that you must engage in society, be considered a legal citizen functioning properly. But when you take part in this thing, you realize the difficulties created by the society demanding technological advancement of the most, requirement for sucking out of the earth all of its energy that's supposed to be used to glorify God with. So all of these inventions we're using, but we're using them in Krishna's service. So the end result makes the mother's body from whom these things are drawn from, like mosquitoes we suck out of the earth. You ever seen an oil well? Pumping like that out of the oil. Looks just like a mosquito, don't it? Just sucking the earth of its blood. What it is, You go to Texas, you go to these countries where they're, the states where they are, and they just cover You know, just like the other technology is these windmills to produce generators, and they're worse than the oil things are, with the killing of the birds and the destruction of them. Then they become such a bad view. They're not looking like part of the earth either. And they affect all these things piled up that all human beings are doing. We don't know that it affects the aerodynamics of the earth as well. Take that not into consideration whatsoever. Vishvakarma I was meditating upon. When I've been asking Krishna about how to build this perfect city, I recognized that you can have one door which opens up to 3 doors, which opens up to 6 doors. And every one of them a path to a different place, or a path to the same place. But depending on which door the people pick and which answer they chose to answer to give the door to open, you could read their minds by what they made most important as being the next door to open. The next door being called a specific idea. See, we do the same thing with children. When children are born in the movement, they go through the Garbhadan samskars, right? And then at a very young age, maybe 6 months or so, they're given a weapon, maybe a picture of Krishna, or even it could be just a shastra. And then they're given a piece of merchandise, which would be a mercantile profession that they would go into if they were wanting to be of the mercantile class. Then you have Brahman, Kshatriya, and Vaishya, and that's put before them. They might put Sudra also, I don't know. But the child will go for one of them, immediately revealing, without the child even knowing that what they're choosing is revealing the attraction they have for that particular employ. Yeah? This is a subtle thing in the soul that reveals its attraction to a particular line of life. So being recognized right away, this is how the guru knows the propensities. The guru is with the mother and father through their initiation. The guru is with the mother and father sharing the enjoyable fact that both mother and father, by guru's guidance, have brought into the world another soul that's going to have the ability to go back to Godhead and be freed from the bonds of birth, death, old age, and disease all over again. But see, we're working to that end. When we become recognized as an international nation of people who have their own laws, who are governed perfectly, who have no crimes in their cities, then ISKCON and judges will be wearing tilak on their foreheads, and it will be recognized worldwide. And this is how the golden age is going to come about. Because when we all engage in this devotional energy of Krishna, and we all get the realization of who Krishna is and what Krishna is giving us. A Bible quote here. See, the Bible quotes about things that aren't pertinent to the knowledge, the limited amount of knowledge being given to the people in the Bible. It pertains to us, that they have limited amount of knowledge about, which has just led me to forget what that quote was about. We can go back to the subject matter. We were talking about a perfect city, right? And Princess of many counselors, there is safety. What is that, though, about a perfect city? A city without sin. That's all these cities of Lord Ram and Lord Krishna, they were perfect cities. There was no sickness there. There was no lack of wealth there. There was prosperity. Every breath there, full of life. Fragrant flowers giving off the breath of life that is a part of that body. Smell that comes from Krishna is the source. Krishna's body, smell, contains with it the source of every aroma there is. Every scent that came into being has its origin from Krishna's body. And so when you get association with Krishna, Narada Muni is asking us to realize that this scent of aroma that is being created by that which is offered to Krishna, because what becomes offered to Krishna takes on qualities of Krishna. So then that aroma is, Narada Muni says, is like Krishna's body. Of course, it's a part of it. But the mentality we create by realizing that, at the moment, it's non-different from being with Krishna, smelling Krishna's body, and having the appreciation for how glorious that body is of Krishna. So, what a fortune we have found in human life. To come in contact with that process, it gives us direct association. Srila Prabhupada says, face to face with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I noticed, because a lot of us are not reading these literatures pertaining to deity worship, then sometimes we offer obeisances this way, we offer obeisances this way. You're supposed to offer obeisances this way. If you see a pure devotee, you offer obeisances directly. To Vishnu Tattva, you offer obeisances from his right. You are on his right, and you offer obeisances. We're on Krishna's right, and you offer obeisances that way. So there's different ways even of offering obeisances. You offer obeisances to a pure devotee straight on. And to one another straight on. You know, when we see each other, we haven't seen each other for a week or two or three or a year or so. We offer respects to each other face to face. Used to be devotees, you could see them outside. The devotees had to be told, no, don't offer your respects. We got guests here that don't understand the principle. Yeah. So the same thing with deity forms. We have Ganesh here with us. We have Hanumanji with us. Some strict Prabhupada disciples, probably years ago, would have said this is a no-no. We don't worship demigods. But, no, we respect the position Krishna has given to them to reveal by the examples of their lives the qualities of Krishna. This protective quality Ganesh has for his mother is why he has an elephant head. And that same protective quality of Lord Shiva is why he cut his son's head off. Both having the same love for their mother, same protective love. And so, Lord Shiva's protective love for his son, after he knew he cut his son's head off, was that he give another head. He put his head on immediately with it, using his ability to heal and cure. So these are examples to us. We don't blaspheme them, say, no, you can't respect them or appreciate them for who they are. They are servants of Krishna. They have a service that they are engaging in, which is seva. Nobody was paying Ganesh to protect his mother as a guard, but he was paying him to do that. He was doing that out of devotion to his mother. Being his mother is Vishnu Tattva, then serving Krishna. This is devotional service. See, all these demigods have their positions with Krishna that they got by serving Krishna. Some of them don't know it at particular times in the history that were being revealed. And then when they come in contact with Krishna, they give him a fight. Then he reveals to them who he is. So that's how he's doing with us too. We thought we were the leaders. We thought we were the controllers. We thought we were the enjoyers in the material world. And we come here and Krishna's the enjoyer. Oh, I surrender. And see, that's the same thing. Demigods do the same thing. but in a bigger way, because they're in control of more. So if we can catch the big, catch the rhinos, go for the whales, that would mean persuading a politician, because politicians are supposed to be in the society representing many people, more than they realize they can represent. You can't represent 1 million people and please them all. You can say you are, but you'll have a bunch of them mad at you for any reason, because it's just the nature of human beings. But if we can come and reason together, we can make sacrifices for each other, then we can agree. But right now, the political scene is not of that nature. Devotees, as much against politics as they, all of us are, Bhagavad Gita is politics. The whole book is politics. The people we're talking about fighting the war are the administrative class, who are the politicians, who are the governors of them. That's it. So, see, Brahmins have to know how to give advice to the administrators. And there are no Brahmins in society. That's what this society is developing. We're aspiring to become Brahmins, and we are learning how to administer knowledge so that Brahmin knowledge can be taken to the administrative class. But sin keeps us from being able to perfect ourselves in that way. We have our own desires that we've developed for millions of years, millions of births even. Yeah. I'm still asking Krishna. I made a statement the other day that we all came from Brahma's body. Actually, I've been saying this for a long time now. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I'm still asking Krishna about that. But it seems evident that at the time of the universe being populated, it was being populated by those living entities that came out of Brahma's body, who were Manus, in whose bodies seeds were, having come out of Brahma's body. So they come out of Brahma's body fully mature. That's the problem with us. The process we are engaging in for procreation forces the living entity out. And so, without the consciousness developed, then the child becomes, Sukadeva Goswami came out of the womb fully self-realized. The knowledge we have now with this enables us to be able to produce the same kind of children. But we have to realize that. There's a process which can be done. Because these children being exposed, just as Narad Muni gave to Prahlad instructions in the womb. Mothers, by the means we have of recording sound vibration. Mothers can give Bhagavatam to their children in the womb by hearing recordings of advanced souls, reciting Bhagavatam. Children, could you imagine a child coming out at birth knowing Sanskrit, reciting Bhagavatam? If you only read the Sanskrit Bhagavatam, it takes a week. But I don't know, it was 24/7, I don't know. Did they sleep? It doesn't say. Possible, Sukadeva Goswami was transcendent. And the need and the urgency because of the prophecy, Maharaj Parikshit. See, there are glorious things about it. There are so many of them that everything can't be described. So whether they were even sleeping during that time is a question we could put to Krishna. Did they sleep while this was being recited? It would be nice, and this may happen in the future. Because when those souls are engaged in Satya Yuga, in fire sacrifice, it's not like once a year, once a month. And I suspect strongly it could be a daily activity. Similarly, with this recitation of Bhagavatam, we could establish posts of devotees who would recite all day long. Everybody takes a post, half an hour, 45, whatever you can do. And then the recitation is continuing. In the back of every temple of Lord Vishnu, to speak of Lord Krishna, resides Garuda. That's why I've been moving, somebody, I don't know who it is, they moved Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa-san forward, backward, backward. We used to circumambulate Srila Prabhupada also. Same way, circumambulation of the temple also. It cleanses us without realizing the effects or how it can do it. It just does. Cleanses us of past activities. So similarly, we do that with Govardhan Hill. So when you're circumambulating Govardhan Hill, it's like circumambulating the universe. And the universe is Navadvip. It is containing Navadvip. So you're circumambulating Navadvip also. And that 9 layers surrounding Mahavishnu at the bottom of the universe, there's a Navadvip like that. Each island surrounding Krishna, being surrounded by different kinds of liquids. There's an ocean of mango juice from which gold is produced. See, all these things, we don't know scientifically how you produce gold from mango juice. We don't have those mangoes. Those mangoes are as big as our elephants are. So who do you suppose is going to pick those mangoes? Those mangoes are picked by living entities that are much bigger than even the giants we say are living as the norm in Satyuga here is 50 feet tall. No. Even they wouldn't have, well, yeah, they might have mangoes that size. But on the inner lining of the universe, the living entities that are living there are just beyond our understanding of what is big and small. Because they have, by the stature of their bodies, they have the ability to affect planets in their orbits, planets in their places. So these are huge. And they can wade in the waters of the causal ocean also. This is what Hiranyaksha was doing for Varaha to be able to have to lift the earth out of the causal oceans, which it is said to have been submerged into partially. So you can just imagine. The benefits of Krishna consciousness more than we can realize. They're just beyond our imagination. Jai. It's about time for Prasadam, 9 o'clock. Any comments, any questions, realization? Have the best day ever, Prabhu. You should have. Every day should be the best day we ever had, right? Why not? Krishna's love is expanding. I came to the realization today, I'm going to look this up. I do not think, I've read 3/4 of the Quran, as far as I could get. I don't remember seeing the word love in the Quran once. And I don't think it's there. It would be wouldn't that be interesting to see? If there is no such thing being presented as a concept within a sacred literature, how could that be?
Yeah, that's interesting.
You know? That seems... See, if you put that into the mind of a child, you would get a different result. If you put the Quran into the mind of a child before he comes out of his mother, he's going to be ready with a sword to kill somebody. I'm serious. I am serious, 100%. That's what he will become. It's a different way. But You see, Kshatriyas, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. Karna was born with a shield meant to be used in military, for military purposes. So, this is the nature of the soul. If we develop desires in that way, they get fulfilled. So we have to really know what we're wanting. Do we really want what we think we want? No.